The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Wow, so much has happened since the last time we spoke with each other. John McCain is dead at the age of 81, and there's quite a bit of competition over his legacy, or dispute over whether or not people should recognize any part of his legacy as being good. We'll discuss that in the A segment. And then, of course, sadly, the shooting in Jacksonville. I lived in Jacksonville for about 2 years, not a long time, but long enough to know exactly where the landing is and to have gone down there and partied down there quite a bit. A shooter who got upset because he lost a video game tournament playing Madden 2019. He decided to pull a gun and start shooting people, killing 4 individuals. So we'll discuss that as well. Let's jump right into what's going on with John McCain. I think it's very... Here's the question. Let's cut to it, right? Should we recognize... Here's a quote. I could start with this. The evil that men do lives after them, when the good is often interred with their bones. So let it be with John McCain. I mean, that's just what it is. People are always going to look at both the bad about you, but I also can flip that quote from Julius Caesar and say the exact opposite, because there's always going to be the opposite side of it. And in fact, when I used to quote that when I was younger, I used to say it backwards. I used to say that the good that men do lives after them, when the evil is often interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. I had it backwards. The truth of the matter is, it's the opposite way. But in actuality, in terms of how it plays out in real life, you're going to have a segment of people who are going to recognize nothing but the good in an individual when they die, because death becomes an absolution. Death becomes the ultimate penance, right? They've paid a debt, and their debt is paid with their life. So now they have nothing but good that remains, and all the evil that they did while they were living is interred with their bones. That's the way it is. And then on the flip side, you're going to have individuals who can see nothing but the evil that they did. And in some cases, rightfully so. I saw one individual tweet sarcastically to try to make a point that, let's consider the good things about Osama bin Laden now that he's dead. They're trying to make a point, a very drastic point. I will say you can't compare bin Laden to John McCain. Fight me about it. I don't care. Tweet me. You can't. You won't. Not today, Satan. But the point being made that people have a way of absolving certain individuals of their horrific crimes. Now, if you really want to dig into this, it really gets to the question of American imperialism. And how do we make people, how culpable are we as individuals for American imperialism? And to that end, how culpable was John McCain? Starting all the way back, the reason I posed that, because people are now litigating his service in Vietnam, right? And I don't know that I have the bandwidth, the blood pressure bandwidth to actually go back and make the case on behalf of the soldiers who fought in Vietnam. Not the generals, not the president, not the American war machines, but the young guys who went. I don't think I have the bandwidth to do that today. I'm going to throw that out there for you to, think about it yourself. But the bottom line is, you're going to always have this type of back and forth when someone dies, especially in this hyper-partisan era that we have, because people are going to do the same thing, however old Obama will be when he passes away, maybe he's 100 years old, whatever. But people are going to do the same thing. And the question is, who's right? Well, that's not the question I'm going to answer. My position on this is that I don't care. I said in a previous version, I deleted the first 10 minutes of the episode and started over. But in a previous version, an alternate universe of this episode, I said that no one is going to really like my take because I don't have a strong opinion about it one way or the other. Not in terms of if somebody wants to mourn John McCain. I completely understand it. I understand that an empire is going to honor its heroes. However, that empire decides to define hero. I also understand that people who see him as an enemy or see him as a villain is actually the phrase I was looking for. People who see him as a villain are going to deride that. They are going to shout at the top of their lungs that this is not a man who should be honored. And I totally get that too. I also get that as soon as this man's bones are put in the ground, we can move on from this moment. I actually have no problem with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's tweet. Well, that's a lie. I do have a problem with it because it was one of those things that it was just a one step above and beyond that what she needed to do. Full transparency. She didn't have to go that far with the tweet, but whatever. Okay, so be it. It was almost like when Bernie Sanders endorsed Hillary Clinton. I really wanted him to just go out there and say, I'm Bernie Sanders and I endorse Hillary Clinton and just call it that. But he went out there and just said all these glowing things about her. And it was like, nah, Bernie, that wasn't necessary. So my only real problem with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's tweet that everyone got upset about was the fact, well, not everyone, but some people got upset about, was the fact that it was above and beyond. She didn't have to, put that much emphasis into, better yet, instead of me saying all that, let me just read what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had to say. She said, quote, John McCain's legacy represents an unparalleled example of human decency and American service. As an intern, I learned a lot about the power of humanity in government through his deep friendship with Senator Kennedy. He meant so much to so many. My prayers are with his family. I mean, I don't really, human decency. No, I can't, I don't know. That's a tough one. I can't really give him human decency. You got to qualify that. And here's the thing. You know what? I am grateful to John McCain for keeping Obamacare alive. It wasn't like something that would absolve everything else that he's done wrong, bringing Sarah Palin to the front stage, which galvanized the Tea Party movement. It won't absolve all the things that he's done to help Saudi Arabia with arms and Lockheed Martin funneling billions and hundreds of billions of dollars to defense contractors. His voting against the MLK Day to pacify Arizona racists. There's a lot about John McCain that will never get washed away simply because he voted in favor of Obamacare to protect Obamacare from Donald Trump. But that was a good moment. And I wonder, I have to ask the question, and this is not a question to, chastise people on the left who are rightly fighting against this whitewashing that happens after a person dies. What I'm getting ready to ask is not me challenging you, because I think what you're doing is necessary. Even if it's frustrating at times. It's not frustrating to me in this moment. But again, I want to reiterate that this is a natural process with someone as high profile. Hell, we did it with Scalia not too long ago. I mean, not as many people said anything positive about Scalia. I mean, more people were dancing and pissing on that man's grave, because he was decidedly just like a piece of human excrement. But, in a way, it happened then. It happened when Ronald Reagan died. Some of you were probably too young to really have been active when he died. I think it was like early 2000s or something like that. But the point is, this happens. So what I'm getting ready to ask, the question I'm getting ready to pose is not me challenging you by creating a straw man. I just genuinely want to ask this question of everyone. Who is good enough to actually celebrate when they die? And I know that that's a logical fallacy in a way, even though I'm posing it as a rhetorical question, it's almost like still something that we have to ask. What makes a person good? I'm not applying this to John McCain because I'm on your side in this. Go ahead. I think he was a shitty person most of his life. And people who are bending over backwards to say positive things about him, fine. I mean, I don't have any problem with either side. I don't have a horse in this race. It doesn't bother me one way or the other, but it does push me to think a little further in terms of who is actually good to celebrate after they die at that level. People are going to, when Barack Obama dies, people are going to list all of these 7 countries that we are bombing currently, or hell, we might still be bombing them. We might still be engaged in those wars. People are going to cite his drone wars, right? People are going to cite a list of things that should, in their minds, disqualify anyone from celebrating him. And again, I'm not drawing a comparison between Obama and McCain because to me, they're night and day difference. And to some of you further to the left of me, you see them exactly the same. So my question is, who is worthy of being celebrated? Who is worthy of having the good spoken about them after they've died versus having only the evil remain after they died? I don't know. That's why I asked you the question. We do have a propensity, everyone, every single one of us. There's somebody in your life that could have done you wrong. There's in every single one of our lives. There are people, big and small, in terms of prominence and stature, who have done wrong that we will honor that other people don't believe we should honor. And again, I want to reiterate before somebody misconstrues this. And I guess, you know what? Let me save my breath because people are going to be intentionally obtuse. They're going to misconstrue this anyway. I don't really care about the John McCain issue and actually am enjoying watching all of you go back and forth as if this is the most important issue of the day. When in my mind, it's like, what am I going to cook for dinner is more important than that. But that's just me being contrarian. I'm just sitting back watching you guys going back and forth when in reality, I think there are far greater things for us to be worried about. But if we're just going to, engage in an intellectual exercise, then the question remains, who is actually worthy of a flattering eulogy? Because for that matter, I mean, and this goes back to, this is like the conservative argument against tearing down monuments, right? It's the same argument. And again, this is why I said before I even pose a question, it's like, it's fallacious, but it's worthwhile examining for you as an individual, right? Because I don't know if that I've answered the question for myself, but it tells you something about yourself. If I could wax, I don't know if it's philosophical or whatever it is. I'm not high tonight, guys. I'm just really taking it. I'm taking it slow. I'm not taking these things serious anymore. I was reading something about taking care of your personal health, your mental health, and about anger. Because I'm like the Hulk. It takes me a long time to get angry, but when I get angry, I go to 10,000, from 0 to 10,000. And I was reading somewhere, and it was like, none of this matters. None of it. Absolutely nothing that we fight about matters in terms of our personal health. And, they were like, they said, if you ever get so angry about something, ask yourself this question: is it worth dying for? Because you can get so angry that you end up killing yourself. So I was like, put it in that perspective. I don't care about any of this. John McCain, John McCain being celebrated. That's totally cool. I'm absolutely cool with the, laying him in state and all this kind of stuff, because this is America. This is what America does. This is what America, they celebrated Ronald Reagan. If they're going to celebrate Ronald Reagan, of course they're going to celebrate John McCain. So I'm not going to lose any sleep over that whatsoever. I would that they would not celebrate a single conservative. because I see conservatives as a huge enemy of the American people, as the enemy of the American people. But that's not how this thing works. I don't always get my way. And I also don't have a problem with any of you who are, going back and forth and, pointing out all the things that he's done wrong, because those are the things that he did. The only thing I have a question about is, like, are we really going to go back? Are we really going back to make him a war criminal because he fought in Vietnam? I mean, that's like a throwback. That's some throwback to the 60s, spitting on soldiers when they came back, But anyway, like I said, I'm not going to argue that either, because who cares? All right. Let me finish. Let me do my job, though. Okay, so that's the question I want you to ask yourself, is who is worthy of praise? Because what it does, that question reveals something about you to yourself. And it's revealed something about me to myself. And as I asked myself that question, I began to realize some of the things that I would put up with, particularly about American imperialism. Right? There are things that you tolerate and that you end up being complicit with because you're willing to celebrate that individual. But then as we begin to mark people off and we check people off and say, I can't celebrate them because they did this. I can't celebrate Bernie Sanders because he did that. I can't celebrate Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because she celebrated John McCain. So I got to scratch her off. As you go down the list and you realize, if you are going to be that true, then honestly, in my opinion, every single person in the United States of America is not worthy of a flattering eulogy. But, I guess that's a slippery slope and a no true Scotsman kind of fallacy going on there. But besides the logical fallacy that results in that intellectual exercise, that thought experiment, it's a good experiment for you to ask yourself, because it reveals more about you than it does the individual that you are saying shouldn't be celebrated or should be celebrated. So the evil that men do lives after them, and the good is often tarred with their bones. So let it be with John McCain. Go to patreon.com/the BPD show for more.